So good morning from Canberra. Sun is starting to rise. Been a nice little place to visit. Yesterday we did the Mint, we did the National Museum, and we did the Houses of Parliament. All were kind of quiet because turns out it was a national holiday here. Today we are headed off to Parkes to see the Parkes Observatory. Should be another kind of fun day. Let's see what happens. Bring you with us.
The obvious comparison to Canberra is Washington, D.C. Both are manufactured capitals away from the biggest cities. Both are trying to impress with their architecture and aesthetic. Both are interesting places to be a tourist, but probably not to live. Today, our first stop would be in the National Triangle, the Ozzy version of the Mall in D.C.
One of the biggest inspirations for wanting to vlog in the first place is Jet Lag the game, and it's pretty cool to be somewhere where Sam and Toby have been.
The Mall in Washington may take the lead in appearances in Forrest Gump, but Canberra's Triangle definitely had charm. I really liked that the lake was an integral part of the landscape. It was very, very pretty. I think Katie enjoyed finding the American flag. After all, you can take the girl out of America, begrudgingly, but you can't take America out of the girl, as much as our current president is trying. Having filled our lexicological desires enough for one day, our next destination would be to the National Arboretum. Visiting Canberra, you will definitely get tired of everything being the national whatever. But hey, trees. Cool. Let's do it.
We're at the National Arboretum in Canberra. A lot of trees.
A lot of trees. That's the insightful commentary you come to my videos for. Jesus Christ.
Apart from the wind, this is rather pretty.
We hadn't just been dragged up a hill to look at a pretty view and regular-sized trees, though. They also had tiny ones. As a short dude, I appreciate anything that makes me feel big, and a national bonsai collection would be right up my alley. There's that word national again. Today I learned the word Penjing. I skimmed some of the Wikipedia article for you, and I guess bonsai is more about the individual tree, but Penjing is more about the whole scene, from the type of pot to including rocks, and sometimes even tiny little people. All I know is I do not have the patience for any of that. I don't know how many trees I've killed due to forgetting they exist. That reminds me, I should probably water the tree on my desk sometime this year.
I'm not an expert. This one feels like it could just be a tree.
The best thing about visiting these places in vlog form is I get to show you the cool things, e.g. the trees, but we get to skip over the whole my mother trying to purchase everything the gift shop has available stage, which is nice. Somehow it was already 11 AM, and we still had around 300 kilometers of driving ahead of us. I'm still not really sure what a kilometer is, but 300 is a pretty big number, so it felt like time to hit the road. I'd enjoyed my time in Canberra. I'm not sure it's worth flying 9,000 miles to visit, but it definitely felt very different from Sydney. My only real regret is that I didn't find out there's a place there called Cockington Green Gardens until after I returned to the States, and I did not have a chance to get my photo taken next to their sign. Cock.
I think we're pretty much done touristing in Canberra, so we're time to hit the shops, grab some snacks and drinks for the road, and on to Parkes.
Australian supermarkets were proving to be much more my speed than American ones. Not just for the welcoming heart cookies, but also because of all the Cadbury's chocolates I can't find at home. Yum yum. Docking up, I took the chance to try out some iconic Ozzy drinks and snacks. Burger rings were like if you took a Funyun and then stored it next to some beef stock cubes for a couple months, so it got just a hint of beef to it. There was nothing to write home about, but it was definitely edible. Lemon Solo though, wow. I really hadn't realised how much I'd missed out on cloudy lemonade while living in the States. They just don't have an equivalent. It took my tongue a while to remember that it was supposed to like it, but we were definitely firm friends by the end of our trip. Our first stop would be in the town of Yass, around an hour's drive from Canberra. We were mostly drawn by the memeability of the name. Yass Queen. Let's drive down the Yass Valley Highway to the Yass Visitor Centre so we can send some Yass postcards to our family. Yass! I'm sure this never gets old for the people who live in Yass. My wife grew up in the small town of Warm Springs, Georgia. I generally consider myself a relatively well-rounded guy when it comes to knowing things. Warm Springs is famously linked to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and everyone I met here on my first trip in 2008 took such pride in their connection to one of the most impactful United States presidents. My entire knowledge before getting a tour of the house where he died was being vaguely aware there had been a president in a wheelchair once. Maybe Woodrow Wilson? The obvious civic pride for something I was almost completely unaware of was something to behold, and that's how it felt when we visited the Yass District Museum. The little old ladies who were in there were just bursting with pride about their connection to Hamilton Hume. And I guess my question is, what the hell's a Hamilton Hume? It turns out that my entire knowledge of Australian history goes Captain Cook, Ned Kelly, something about kids in the outback getting school over the radio, and ending with Dame Edna Everage. It amazes me that a country that feels as familiar to me as Australia did was still a massive knowledge black hole. What am I missing from other, less culturally similar countries? It's kind of why I love going places. There's just so much to learn about, and sometimes they have funny names. Yes! If you are looking to travel and not just be a tourist, I do think it's important to engage with somewhere by doing as the locals do, even when that's not objectively best. For example, the first time I took my wife out to eat where I grew up in Scotland, we went to Frankie and Benny's rather than an actually good restaurant, because it is one that I would eat at when I still lived in Scotland and I had the rose-tinted memories, but also because she would definitely get an experience she would not be able to get at home, that of an outsider's idea of what an American restaurant is like. All that is to say that you are not allowed to judge us for choosing to lunch at the McDonald's in Cowra. Yes, my nuggies were exactly the same as in the US, but I did get an Australian Football League board game, which I immediately lost, both in terms of playing and in terms of knowing where the bits of it are. When this journey had started in Sydney's suburbs, it had been through heavy congestion and large multi-lane motorways. Traffic that definitely sucked, but that I kind of felt at home in coming from Atlanta, even if it was on an unusual side of the road. As we'd ventured further out towards Canberra, the roads became the more typical dual carriageways familiar to me growing up in Scotland. Leaving Canberra behind, the roads to Yass and Cowra became two-lane highways, still with a relatively decent speed limit, and based simply on the number of caravans we kept getting stuck behind, still relatively well-travelled. After Cowra, though, the roads were really starting to tell the story of how far out we were getting. The road surface became significantly worse, not helped by the very soft suspension in the rear of our hire car, and the few other vehicles we did see were not other tourists. They were utes, semi-trucks, or farm equipment. In hospitality, we often say that perception is reality. How a guest feels about their room is more true than the actual objective truth about it. My perception after 2 days of driving through Australia was of just how much distance we must have covered, and I was genuinely surprised when I checked the map to see that our destination for the day, Parkes, was less than a quarter of the way through New South Wales, which was the narrowest of the 3 states that fill the southern half of Australia. Yes, the significant insight I have for you after driving through Australia is that it turns out that it's big. Who knew? Just as I was thinking the roads were about as country as they could be, our GPS juked us up the eastern side of Parkes to avoid some construction on the main road to the observatory, instead deciding it would be faster to take the dirt farm roads out to the telescope, much to my delight. My wife grew up listening to and loving country music in a small town surrounded by dirt roads, and to this day it baffles me how uncomfortable they make her. Surely after close to 14 years of marriage, she'd realise it's getting less and less likely that I'll murder her and dump her body out there. I suppose chances are never zero, though. After a long drive, we made it to the Parkes Observatory. The Parkes Radio Observatory opened in 1961 and is perhaps most famous for being the place responsible for receiving most of the live television broadcast from man's first mission to the moon. I'm not allowed to use my wireless microphone here, or any kind of signal, just to protect the telescope. Unless you're a massive moonhead, I don't know that the telescope is worth making a special trip for. It is neat though, a nice little museum and play park, and frankly, it's pretty cool that they even allow visitors in considering the nature of their work. And to be fair, it's by far the coolest thing we'd seen in over 300 kilometers. Hello? Jobbies. Pretty big telescope. Pretty big telescope. It's like I'm not even trying. It was time to head back to what passes for the big city in Parkshire, this time by proper roads, and check into our motel for the evening. It was nice to pass by the construction that had rerouted us earlier, so that we could be reminded that it was actually possible for the roads to be worse. Somehow. I don't know what I imagined small Australian towns would look like, but Parkes surprised me. Once you got through what passed for suburbia in such a small town, it had a very cute little main street that was lined with beautiful trees. The town was big enough to have the typical Australian chains like Coles, Woolworths and the Big W, but it also had some nice independent shops as well. My favourite was Discount Dave's. They came through with a seatbelt neck cushion for my sister, who was exactly the wrong height for the seatbelt in the hire car. I'm not sure what criteria my brother used to pick the hotels and motels for this trip, but he did pretty well with the Henry Parkes Motor Inn. Its location right off the main street of the town was perfect for walking to shops and dining, but it also had a real old-school charm about it. The owners clearly took great pride in keeping the place clean and well-maintained. The parking lot was challenging, but on-street parking was free and plentiful, so no problems there. For dinner that night, we headed just a few blocks away to the Railway Hotel. It took me a while to realise that hotel in Australian doesn't necessarily mean hotel. While it can mean, a hotel with rooms for sleeping, it often just means pub, or even liquor store. The Railway Hotel was one of those. Dining and drinks only, nowhere to sleep. I ordered and received some kind of steak with a pear cider. The cider was refreshing, the steak definitely edible. I had been warned not to expect a lot from food in Australia, and I'm glad I was going in with low expectations. I like trains. Another day of touristing was complete, and it was time to lay down on the bed and go, "Hey, I know that guy," when I realized the Australian Taskmaster also hosts the Australian Mastermind. It was a lot less funny this time. We had to rest up, for tomorrow we head a little further north, up to Dubbo, an actually decent-sized town with actual tourist attractions. Stick around and join me, maybe. Or don't. I'm not your boss. And if you're interested in joining us for more of this adventure, feel free to hit that subscribe button.